you about some of the directions you give. In the way of background, it was 20 some odd years ago. You remember Agenda 21, that 1992 book that we went through a couple of times there? Another item that came out of there was the United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity Treaty. 168 countries have already signed up to that. It was about 20 years ago when it was before the U.S. Senate. Bush 41 would not sign it. President Clinton did sign it, so it went to the Senate. They were doing their discussion, having their debate, and on an afternoon, I've forgotten the date, they were going to have a vote on cloture, which means that then the next vote would be to accept the treaty. They found 35 senators that opposed it. I don't know what the other 65 were doing, but that treaty, you've seen this picture before, and this is a picture of the poster that went before the U.S. Senate, and this is what convinced 35 senators not to vote for cloture. The red lines, the red areas, humans are not allowed. No roads. Yellow areas, restricted use. You may not be able to see the little bitty green areas, which are for normal use. 65 senators were all ready to accept this. It did not pass. It has not passed yet. Fast forward to our general plan. If you look through that thing, you can find elements of this in our general plan. Straight out of Agenda 21. Infill development, land use 1.5. Community plans, stack and pack. Make taller buildings like we have down on Line Street. Land trust and financial incentives in our general plan to make more of these areas red where people cannot go. Live-work development. The Bay Area is implementing this in their Greater Bay Area plan. Hopefully it will not get here. Natural and cultural resource section of your land use, and I'll sum it up here. Integrated network of open spaces. That's all the red lines and connecting the big red line areas. Habitat conservation plan, straight out in your general plan, straight out of Chapter 14 and Agenda 21. Maintaining corridors of habitat. You've got to have a different corridor for the cougar. You've got to have a different corridor for the deer. And I'm slowly going. They're going to paint the whole country red.
Next speaker is Terry Sandoval.
Terry, and I have SA members. We're all going to come up together and speak. We're going to take our time if that's allowed.
You all turned in different time cards, so are you speaking separately?
But we're going to come up together and take our turn. Is that okay?
9 minutes.
Okay, you each get 3.
Correct.
Okay, the reason why I'm up here is I'm going to act as interpreter when necessary, okay?
Are you Terry?
I am Terry.
Okay, so you're going to speak for 3 minutes?
He and she and I will speak for 3 minutes or less.
You need to make sure you pronounce your names.
Okay. ¿Qué es su nombre?
Mirza Sharon Mondragón. Honorables señores, muy buenos días. Mi nombre es Mirza Sharon Mondragón.
Excuse me. Good morning. My name is
Mirza Sharon Mondragón. Honorables señores, yo represento la voz de aquellos ciudadanos que están en coma.
I represent the voice of the folks that are in coma, who are represented by ULTCW. We take care of people that need in-home support services.
De ellos que tienen los mismos derechos que ustedes.
They deserve, and we deserve, the same rights that you have.
derechos que ustedes como diplomáticos no han querido apoyar.
The same rights that have been given to you in a diplomatic way, we deserve those same rights, as do our clients.
Nosotros que cuidamos enfermos exigimos respeto.
We take care of people that are in home. They deserve the same rights and respect that you get.
Exigimos mejores salarios.
We deserve a better salary than we get, equal to what you get.
Atenciones médicas. Atención médica.
We pay so much attention to the medical needs of the people that we represent and serve.
Nosotros que hacemos el trabajo de cuidar enfermos,
We do the work of taking care of people in their home.
hacemos el trabajo de una enfermera
We do the same work as a nurse. We do not get paid
o
what a
una
nurse makes.
institución
Say it again.
o una institución privada.
We work as private people taking care of folks at home.
Una enfermera solamente toma la presión, la temperatura y el oxígeno.
A nurse will take care of checking the temperature, checking the blood pressure, which is what we do.
Y cobran hasta $350 por una visita.
They get paid $350 for a 1-hour visit.
Nosotros bañamos a nuestros enfermos,
We take care of the same folks doing the same thing.
cambiamos los pañales sucios hasta 4 o 5 veces al día,
We bathe them, we change their diapers up to 5 to 6 times per day.
les cortamos las uñas,
We cut their fingernails, their toenails.
les damos de comer,
We feed them.
sufrimos igual que ellos,
We suffer the same way as the nurses.
les lavamos su ropa,
We wash their clothes.
una labor que grandes personas dignas
We want to give them the dignity that they deserve.
no han valorado.
It is a very valuable thing that needs to be done.
Este condado de San Benito
This county of San Benito
tiene el orgullo
has the opportunity.
que es la tierra del presidente Reagan,
This is the area where President Ronald Reagan was born and raised.
pero a nosotros nos tienen en la miseria. A nosotros nos tienen en la miseria.
And the rest of us are trying to do the same work he has done.
Medical nos niega todos los derechos.
We need the rights to be able to
Medical.
give the medical needs to our clients.
Okay, if you can summarize.
¿Qué dijo?
I apologize, it's just that the 3 minutes means a minute and a half for him to speak and a minute and a half for me to interpret.
Okay, but if you can summarize now, we'll give him time to summarize.
Okay.
Medical se niega a darnos rehabilitación a los enfermos porque dicen que no hay fondos.
We're trying to do the best that we can with the funds that we have. We keep being told that the funds aren't there and they keep getting cut.
Estados Unidos es el país más rico del mundo,
We're in the United States, it's the richest economy in the world.
pero es una vergüenza que a los enfermos nos tengan limitados.
It's an embarrassment that the sick are not taken care of.
Nos niegan los derechos.
We deserve the rights.
Un enfermo en coma no puede decir tengan piedad.
Somebody who is ill or in a coma does not have the ability to speak for themselves, so therefore we speak for them.
Ustedes diplomáticos, escúchenos.
We ask that you listen to us and our needs.
Ustedes diplomáticos, no les rogamos, les exigimos respeto.
We want the respect from you that we give to our client.
Cambien su posición.
We need you with your position that you have to fight
Ustedes
for us.
vengan a ayudarnos a limpiar a nuestros enfermos cuando están sucios.
We would like for you to come walk a day in our shoes, come clean the diapers.
Nos pagan $10 la hora.
We're being paid $10.50 an hour.
Ustedes por $500 no lo harían.
If you were to do it, you would probably charge $500 an hour.
Les pido mercy, piedad,
We're begging you for your mercy
por nuestros enfermos.
for the ill
Tienen los derechos que ustedes tienen.
to have the same rights that you have.
Les pido perdón si los ofendo,
I am very sorry if I have offended you,
pero gracias por escucharme.
but thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Good morning. My name is Erica Andrade, and I'm here once again. Last time I was here and asking you the same thing about raise our wages. And as my partner already talked, and I'm taking care of my great-grandma's daughter, and it's a commitment. And it's a commitment, a full-time job, and I'm get paid part-time job, and the money that I get paid is not enough to support myself. Of course, I have to be looking for another job to give me the opportunity to pay my entire bill. $600 a month is not enough to support a family. So looking here for the same thing, that get better salary and benefits, like a medical. I don't have a medical right now, and I'm trying to get ones for myself like everybody else in this country, and just can't afford it right now. So I put in my health and on the side because can't afford it. So I am asking you, consider it, the, like my partner said, the empathy for us, and help us with get a better salary so we can take care of our elderlies at home, and not ending putting in a nursery home because we cannot make it. So right now in the family, I am the only person that take care of this elderly. There's no one else that is able to do it. So I have a commitment with her, and it's her job 24/7, and it's a lot of work and a lot of commitment. So once again, I will appreciate if you consider our nuestras, well, I don't know how to say it, but if you can, I think that you understand what I am trying to say. Thank you very much for listening to me.
She's asking for the support for the United Long-Term Care Workers in San Benito County. She's asking for all of your support of us for the fight that we have to bring our salaries up to a living wage. Is that
Okay, are you
fair?
speaking on your 3 minutes now?
Okay. All right. My name is Terry Sandoval. I'm going to cede my time to Norma. This is Norma. She's going to speak on my behalf
Okay, I don't have a card for her.
because she just got here. She's going to speak for me. I'm ceding my time to her.
Buenos días. Mi nombre es Norma y yo cuido a mi hijo. Tiene 19 años.
This is Norma. She takes care of her son. He's 19 years old.
Yo quisiera que tuviera un cuidado de calidad mi hijo. Yo lo cuido y yo lo cuido con todo mi amor, pero un día que yo no esté o si alguien necesita cuidar, yo quiero que tenga un cuidado de calidad. Siempre ha luchado para darle lo mejor a mi hijo.
She takes care of her 19-year-old son. He has special needs. Her full-time job is taking care of her son. She needs to know if she cannot take care of him, that somebody who is qualified to do the work could step in her place.
Ya, y me gustaría que tuviera un cuidado de calidad mi hijo. Él no tiene la culpa ni yo. Él está así por una negligencia de un doctor. Ya. Gracias.
She says it's very, very important that she is able to take care of him because nobody can take care of him the way that she does, and that he needs to go to the doctor back and forth, and if she can't do it, nobody else can do it. ¿Algo más?
Es todo.
Okay, that's all that she has to say. We're here. We're going to come here every meeting to talk to you about the fact of the United Long-Term Care Workers, IHSS, have been working in this county for $10.50 an hour. They have not received a raise in 5 years. The counties in the Central Coast, Santa Cruz gets $11.90 an hour. Salinas, Monterey County gets $11.50 an hour. Here they get $10.50 an hour. We're in negotiations. Please negotiate with us for a better and fair contract.
Otra cosa.
She has one more thing to say.
I believe the time is up.
Me cambié del condado de Santa Clara al condado de aquí para darle una vida mejor. Pero me encontré con que a los 6 meses me quedé sin aseguranza y luego el salario era menos también.
She moved from Santa Clara County to San Benito County looking for a better life for her and her son. When she moved from Santa Clara County to San Benito County, she lost over $1.50 an hour in wages because of crossing counties. And she hoped to come here for a better life. Instead, what she got was a cut in pay. Her pay is the same, gas prices go up. It's over $4 a gallon to get gas, to put in their car. She needs a
Madam,
special car to get her
Madam,
son.
you're over your time allotment.
All right, very well. Kiss. Norma Kiss.
Norma Gutierrez.
Gutierrez. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Sherry
Thank you.
Stevenson.
All three of us are together, and we did a card each.
Good morning.
Good morning.
For those of you that don't remember me, I'm the new Director of Military Veterans Affairs Office, San Benito and Monterey County. And I'm here today, and Calvin made me wear the jacket. No, just kidding. And Sherry said I only get 3 minutes. So what I'm here to do today is talk a little bit about the partnership that we have with California Department of Veterans Affairs and introduce Mr. Calvin Angel. In the team concept with San Benito and Monterey County, Calvin Angel plays a key part in linking services to our veterans within both counties. So with that, I'm going to introduce you to Mr. Angel. He will be the next speaker, followed up by Sherry. And he'll talk a little bit about what he does for both counties.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Good morning. Again, as he was saying, my name is Calvin Angel. I'm with the California Department of Veteran Affairs. What I do is I actually represent the state in 5 counties throughout Central California, Central Coastal California. This just happens to be one of them. This is a very unique county, and that, according to the numbers that we have, this most recent census and the numbers that come out of Sacramento, our numbers, you have approximately 3,000 veterans in your community. We've been able to account for less than 10% of that. Part of it is the uniqueness of the structure of your community, and that it's so spread out. Some of your veterans are not exactly within city. They're homeless. That's certainly a large part of your population. We want to reach those people, and what we have come up with is what we think is a means of doing that will include the entire community. So what we're asking for is, and hoping to partner with you on, is a program that we call Identify Veteran Month. And can I have these handed to them so they can get an idea of what it is exactly that we want? So what we're hoping that you will agree to do is the month of August to designate that as Identify a Veteran Month. Help us identify Veteran Month for this county. It will be a program that will be running concurrent with some media support, obviously support from the state as well, in order to get the community involved, to get the word out that there are people, members of your own families, that maybe have not been connected to their veteran benefits and services, something that has been is being handled in this community right now by Sherry and of course Monterey County in partnership with your county already. But we're hoping that that month will bring some more attention to the need in this community to find these veterans that are out there, connect them to these services that are available for them. And for this county, what that may result in is just a financial benefit as well, because obviously if they're receiving those benefits and services, that will, again, translate into income for this community as well. And we know that is a reality, and maybe there's be some numbers to come up and support that as well. So thank you for your time. Appreciate it. I'm assuming that beep meant my time is up. Okay, thanks.
Good morning to the chair and to the members of the board. My name is Sherry Stevenson, and I'm your County Veterans Service representative. First and foremost, please allow me to thank this board and administrative staff. Your continued support to our department and for our veterans. Without it, the services and assistance to county veterans would be a hardship to obtain. They say that with every one man fighting on the front lines, there are 7 behind him in support, providing supplies, food, medical assistance, etc. The same goes when that man comes home. There are family members, friends, community support behind him. These veterans can get lost in the process or even feel they're not eligible. Our goal now is to reach out to those supportive 7 and say to them, we have this service, let's work together to help our brave warriors. Our department fully supports Mr. Angel in this Identify a Veteran outreach program and will work hard towards its success. Thank you for your time.
And I just want to come up here and let you all know that Sherry was just promoted to Senior Veteran Service Representative for Monterey San Benito County.
Next speaker is Dee Murphy.
Just a minute. Supervisor Barrios?
Yeah, I just want to ask, formally ask our CAO to put it on the calendar for that, to accept the request, and perhaps call Mr. Angel and ask for a sample resolution that we can, or a proclamation. We've got it? Okay. So thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Good morning. My name is Dee Murphy. I know you guys have seen me many times here. My daughter, today we went to the BLM office, and she took a picture of this sign, the BLM mission. It is the mission of the Bureau of the Land Management to sustain the health, diversity, and productivity of the public lands for the use and enjoyment of present and future generations. Well, as we know, that just isn't happening. I went and got this book, no offense. It says Government Bullies, How Everyday Americans Are Being Harassed, Abused, and Imprisoned by the Feds. I got this at the library last night. As I went to BLM to come to this meeting, I wanted to get the map that has a sticker that explains from way back before they closed it how we can't travel except certain spots. They didn't have any. Rick Cooper walked out, asked how I was. I said, no, I'm not happy with you. He told me, this is the map they gave me. It's a 2007 map. They cannot provide me a map to the new area. It's not new, I'm sorry, but the closed area. Instead, she told me, I'm sorry, the printer broke. I got this one. This is for the Griswold Hills. I got a news release. Today, they closed it for fire danger. I understand that, but that leaves nowhere you can go. I asked her, where can I drive my car with my 2 kids? Because I can't go dirt biking there. They told me, I don't know, because we don't know if the road is maintained by us yet. They said by us. Here is the permit that you have to sign in. Here is something very important that the BLM promotes very well. Youth outside. Here, it tells me, don't take my children there. It specifically says children are at most risk from exposure. We already know between Rick Cooper and Jerry Johnson that she sent, and he sent, something that said, the chance is 0. Let's go have a glass of wine. Now, I am awful upset with the BLM. Now they've gone into Nevada, New Mexico, and Texas, and they're taking people's cows off public land. They already took 70,000 acres. That didn't hit the big news. But I assure you, I have written people constantly. I have written people recently. I always add in any comment I can. Hey, come and look at us. San Benito County has lost $2.5 million every year in sales tax. My business and my husband's business, $500,000 a year almost. I have kids that haven't even been able to ride. Here is the note I'm going to give you that they put up, I think in 2008. Steve Wells posted this last night. But it says, temporary emergency road closures as follows. San Benito County has ordered and hereby closes. We know that isn't true. They tricked you. Don't let them continue to trick you. I want a letter of no confidence for Rick Cooper, and I've written the sheriff. I get no answer. I need some help from you guys. I love you guys, but I need some help because this isn't fair. We lose too much money. Anthony, Margie, I know. Jerry, I know. You guys know how important this is to me and all of the rest. I want my kids to have freedom, the right. If I thought it was bad, I wouldn't let my kids go there.
If you can summarize.
can we get a letter of no confidence in Rick Cooper and keep our roads open and get BLM open? BLM Clear Creek open, please. This is for you guys. And there's the permit for Clear Creek, and it has two sides to it stating not much. Thank you. Thank you.
Next speaker is Brooke Murphy.
Hi, so I'm Brooke Murphy, and she's my mom. And I'd just like to say that Clear Creek, I mean, I never really knew the place. Like, I've never gone in it. And I've always wanted to go motorcycling there because my mom and my dad said it was, like, one of the best places to motorcycle. And because BLM closed it, I've never been able to go and never been able to, like, see what it was like for, like, my dad. He grew up on that place, and now I can't see it ever. And I'd just like to say that I really hope that we can get the BLM to, like, try to open it up for us, because it's important to more than just the motorcyclers, because, like, my dad's business, all of Hollister's businesses, they all are being, like, injured and hurt by it being closed, because, like, a while ago we talked to, like, to a lot of these other businesses, and they said they did lose money because no more people came. Like, people go to Hollister Hills, but they don't really stop and buy pizza or buy, like, stuff to camp out, like food and stuff, because they just live really close and they just can just go home, instead of, like, where Clear Creek, where it's farther away, where they stop and they buy more stuff. And sorry. And and, like, with the Nevada situation, like, I would like it if more people knew about this, but I don't really want, like, a situation where we have, like, people saying, well, you have orders to shoot to kill, to shoot if you need to. Like, I don't want it to be like that, but I do wish we could open it eventually, because it's important to a lot of people. Sorry. And also, thank you for trying to help us a lot.
Next speaker is Sierra Murphy.
Hi, I'm Sarah, and I'm on the same point as my mom and my sister for BLM reopening Clear Creek. It really kills the businesses, you know, Hollister and other businesses, even in San Jose, like our dad's work. He doesn't even have enough money to come down and buy a pizza anymore, which he almost always usually did, because he no longer gets money. And he got the money because Clear Creek was open, because people around the world basically come for Clear Creek. But it's kind of gone beyond that. It's kind of ridiculous that they're taking out our public roads. I mean, they're public. Anyone should go on them. We shouldn't have just 5 days to travel on them because they think they can take anything they want. It's the people's roads. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Marty Richmond from Hollister. Really quickly, I'd like to just cover two items. One is I fully support the Contact a Veteran program. I'm glad you've asked for it to be agendized, Supervisor Berrios. It's really, really very easy. There should be no one who contacts the county government for support or anything that doesn't get asked, are you a veteran? And are you registered for your veterans programs? It's very, very simple. If they go into the one-stop center, if they're found wandering along the roadway, if the sheriff finds them in distress or they got homeless problems or whatever, the still biggest group that has been a problem area of the Vietnam veterans, and the reason is very simple. The majority of the Vietnam veterans were taken out of the economically depressed portion of the population because they couldn't get a 2S deferment. So there's a lot of Vietnam veterans from San Benito County because they were drafted, and they already had problems perhaps before they went in, and it didn't get any better by the fact they served their country and came out and found out they were blamed for the whole thing. So I think putting in a program that says if you contact the county for any kind of service, we're going to ask you if you're a veteran, and we should then fill out a little form and send it to the veterans officer is just very simple, and it just makes a lot of contact points. The second item is unrelated to that, and I would like to ask the county board to get more involved in the education issues in this county. We talk a lot about economic development all the time, but let me tell you what, before a lot of families, before they'll move to anywhere, the first thing they do is look at the schools. What kind of schools do we have, and are they any good? And you know, the majority of our schools rate lousy. Lousy to worse than lousy on every single website that rates schools. We have some exceptions, but overall, it's not good. And that's important. The same thing, you talk about economics, when companies start looking for where they want their people to live and what we have to offer, they start looking at our education opportunities, and it's not good. And there'll be a lot of talk going on because there's about a $42.5 million bond coming up for the high school, and I have some words to say about that. It may not be what you expect, but I will have at the appropriate time to talk about it, because I'm going to support it if they spend the money for academics and not for athletics. Thank you very much.
I don't have any other speakers for you. I do.
There, he's got his hand.
Good morning. My name is Gil Slorio, Executive Officer for the Superior Court. I'm just here to briefly announce that the Superior Court is soliciting applications for the civil grand jury for next fiscal year, which is July 1st through June 30th. There are members of the civil grand jury in your audience right now. I can't express our gratitude enough on behalf of the court, on behalf of the community, for their work. But I do want to encourage the rest of the community, the people here in the audience, the people who might be viewing this on television, if you will, that we are soliciting applications. We field 19 positions, if you will, 19 seats on the civil grand jury. And the basic qualifications are that you're a citizen of the United States, you're 18 years of age, and that you've resided in our community for at least 1 year prior to your service. My phone number, I want to put this out. My name is Gil Slorio. My phone number is 636-4057, extension 11. If anybody here or anybody watching this has any questions about the civil grand jury process, what responsibilities there are, please give me a call. We are always soliciting applications, and if your board doesn't mind, I would appreciate being able to leave applications at your front desk. And that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gil. Do we have anybody else that wants to address the board at this time? Supervisor Barrios?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I would like to make a request that I have given this a lot of thought, and not just because of the speakers that we had here today, but I would like to ask that we have or prepare a letter of no confidence for Recouper and BLM. I wanted to go on record that I feel that their actions are an injustice for San Benito County. I think that they have lacked effort. I feel that they have lacked cooperation. They have lacked accurate information for what they have done, and for that reason, I would like for that letter to be prepared and hope that I can get the support of the rest of the supervisors. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Seeing, okay, Supervisor.
Yeah, I want to support Supervisor Barrios on that request. I think it's appropriate with the limited options that we have at our disposal to protect public lands for the public. So I think that's a very loud action if this board would support that effort. Thank you.
So can that be on our May 6th agenda?
Yeah, we can put.
Okay.
Yeah, we can put that on May 6th.
Okay.
Thank you.
With that, we will move on to department head announcements. Mr. Espinoza?
Yeah, we do have an announcement from our director from UC Ag Extension, Lynn Schmidt-Coulter. Like to come up?
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. My name is Lynn Schmidt-McQuitty. I'm the director for the University of California Cooperative Extension, also known as Farm Advisor, also known as Ag Extension, also known as 4-H. I just want to update you on several things that have been going on with our department. The end of February, we moved to our new location at Southside Road, 3228 Southside Road. I want to publicly thank Public Works and particularly Adam Goldstone for helping us with the move. Things went very, very well. We're very excited to be in our new location, and we really do appreciate the county supporting us in this move and during this transition. As such, we will be having an open house on the 8th of May. I have provided all of you an invitation to that. Not only are we looking at that date as an open house, but it's also the 100-year celebration of President Woodrow Wilson signing the Smith-Lever Act, which initiated cooperative extension across the country in the United States. As such, we will be having an open house to celebrate this day, where we will have food, educational materials, research displays, and an opportunity for not only the board, but also community members to come and meet and greet with us, and also participate in what we're calling a Day of Science and Service, where we will be looking at water use, a very timely topic that we're talking about today, as well as having a pollinator count, and also healthy food intake. We'll have stations where the public can either use their smartphones or their iPads to go onto surveys and provide us information about these particular items. This will be going on around the state on that day, so we'll be gathering a database of really how San Benito spends some of their water, as well as their intake of healthy foods and their use of pollinators. The last thing I'd like to mention is that in May, we will be going into recruitment for a new faculty member in their area of livestock, natural resources, and range. We are hoping that they will be on board in October, and their focus will be on range management, water use, and then also their audiences will be ranchers and land managers, so that we can provide better research, education, and extension and outreach to that clientele, and very important economic driver here in San Benito County. So we hope to see you on the 8th of May, and if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me or come out and visit us at our new facility. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lynn. Yeah, there's one other announcement. I met with Jeff from San Benito County Water District last week in reference to CSA 31, Stonegate. And currently they are reaching levels of water use where they're at their limits. So what we've discussed is actually putting a letter out to the community, let them know that they need to be very careful with their water usage, and just want to let the board know that that'll probably be going out very soon. Other than that, I don't think we have any other announcements.
Okay, we'll move on to board announcements. Supervisor Rivas?
Nothing.
Supervisor De La Cruz?
Yes, Mr. Chair. The Vets Commission Committee, Supervisor Munzer and myself met, and one of the items of discussion was the continued possibility of expansion on the skateboard at the Vets Park. It still needs to go through a lot of hoops and boundaries, and then go eventually back to the board of supervisors and see what is your guys' opinion of continuing the support of the skateboard. And so it's going to go back to the Vets Commission, and then from there eventually go back to the board of supervisors for consideration, then back to the City Hall for their final approval or agreement to sign the contract. Then maybe in about 6 months or so, we might have a skateboard in San Diego County. The other one, the Home Loan Committee met, and I noticed that there's an item on the agenda today for the Chispa on Buena Vista Road. The Home Loan Committee met to discuss the possibility of loaning the Chispa project $1 million of the home loan, and the recommendation was yes, and Community Action Board also met, and they actually gave a yes recommendation on it too. The purpose of the Home Loan Committee funds is to help low-income families obtain housing, and we felt that instead of allocating the funds for housing, it is in the best interest of the community to go on an apartment concept better, because this project has a potential to benefit 80 families versus maybe using those $1 million for low-income housing that could probably provide, I don't know, 10, 20 at a maximum. So at the end of the day, we did a matrix analysis and determined that the maximum number of families should be better used for those funds. And the other one, which I kind of still feel it, some of the members of the city council members and myself participated in Walk a Mile in Her Shoes, and we walked in high heels for a mile downtown, and it was very educational. It bring awareness to domestic at home, and I committed, hopefully my fellow supervisors would agree, that we will have a team there next year. So I'm challenging, not you, Margie, but Anthony, Jerry, and Robert to join me in walking a mile in high heels and feel the pain on Monday. So this is an invitation for the rest of my fellow supervisors for next year. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Supervisor Patello?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll take you up on that challenge next year, Supervisor De La Cruz. This year I was spraying, and I should have somehow made it out there. But anyhow, my announcement is on April 27th is Fremont Peaks Day. It's an annual event that's been going on for years and years. The San Juan veterans, along with the Native Daughters in San Juan, are hosting this. It's a day of family fun. We have hamburgers, hot dogs, no charge. It's games for the kids. It's to commemorate flag raising up on Fremont's Peak. Captain John Fremont raised a flag there. And there's to be a couple of speakers, not too long in the speaking department, but should be a lot of fun. And it's generally a beautiful setting. The grass is still green up on Fremont's Peak, and you get to see all three counties in the region. It's a great day, so bring out your family. On April 27th, starts at 11 o'clock or so. Thank you.
Supervisor Barris?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. We reached a milestone in regards to the Pajaro River bench excavation project that has been completed. It's not the optimum solution, but it does bring some protection nonetheless to that area. So it's win-win-win in that it protects the community, the habitat, and the people. And that's the most important outcome of this excavation. And the excess soil that was taken out of there was actually used at the Elkhorn Slough. So there was a lot of opportunity for that soil to go for, other benefits. So it was really, like I said, a milestone. It's been completed, and I was happy to know that at least something has been done to protect. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
And I would like to report out that AMBAG met last week, and staff reported that the close of the public comment period for the Metropolitan Transportation Plan and Sustainable Community Strategy was April 8th, and then they gave an update on the comments that were received. Also, on Friday, I drove down to the Pinnacles, and they were hosting a relevancy workshop, engaging the new America in the Pinnacle National Park. There were about 24 people in the workshop, both staff and volunteers, and it was stated that the East Side visitors attendance is up to about 130,000 people now per year. And then I just want to read the first sentence of the workshop goal. It is to explore and share ideas of how Pinnacle National Park can attract, welcome, and engage the people from all sectors of the U.S. population. So the Pinnacles themselves are working on how to promote the park. So it was a very good workshop. Unfortunately, I was not able to stay for the whole thing, but it was very well. With that, we'll move on to consent agenda. Is there anybody from the public that would like to remove anything from the consent? Seeing none, what's the wishes of the board?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Passes 5-0. We will move on to the public hearings. Mr. Espinoza?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, this particular item is found for us on page 3. It's public hearing, item number 16, and we have our interim planning director here from our planning department. He's going to be conducting this in consideration of our Buena Vista Road. So we have, again, Byron Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This item is zone change number 13-177, which proposes to rezone 5 acres at 890 Buena Vista Road from agricultural productive to residential multiple. The purpose of the zone change is to facilitate the construction of 13 two-story buildings with 80 below market rate apartments, a shared activity center, a laundry facility, private gated drives, 152 parking spaces, and outfitted with solar panels. The project also proposes Buena Vista Road, street, and sidewalk improvements, landscaping, and utility connections. Note on the traffic, it's been brought up in the past. We have been in contact with CHP regarding increased monitoring in the area. This project is required to go to LAFCO prior to building permits to secure water and sewer services. The Planning Commission held public hearings on the item on February 19th and April 2nd of 2014, and at the latter meeting adopted the resolution 2014-04, recommending that the Board of Supervisors approve zone change 13-177 based on the findings and conditions of approval within that resolution. I have a couple of visual representations so you can see what the location is and what it looks like. If you give me 1 second. So what's coming into focus behind me is a large view aerial photo. You can see it is on Buena Vista Road, next to the cemetery. There's a close-up adjacent to some high-density residential in the city of Hollister. This is the view from Park Hill of the vacant lot. There's some elevations of what is proposed to be constructed there, several different building styles. And all this is found in your packet, but I'm showing it for the purposes of so the public can see what is intended to be there. There's the overall site plan. So with that, it is recommended that the Board of Supervisors conduct a public hearing and review the project record and Planning Commission Resolution 2014-04 and consider the proposed zone change. Number 2, to make the CEQA and zone change findings found in the discussion of the said report. Number 3, adopt the mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring and reporting program. And number 4, make a motion to adopt the ordinance to approve zone change 13-177 based on the aforementioned findings and on the conditions of approval found in Exhibit B of the proposed ordinance. I'm available for any questions.
Are there any questions from the board?
Mr. Chair, Byron, did you and Lisa had an opportunity to discuss safety issues along Buena Vista Road? Because I know Lisa and some of the staff members are safe routes to school. They're moving forward with that, and I hope that this project will also be part of the entire master plan of Buena Vista Road to make it into a safe route for kids and for mothers to take their kids to school. So have you had that conversation with Lisa? And if not, it's still open, right? It's not a slam dunk final deal, right?
That is correct. We have ongoing conversations as well as with the Public Works Department, and we did prepare a letter to CHP also requesting that, they monitor the area, but we are having an ongoing conversation about how to make that area more safe.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I see Lisa nodding. Okay, good. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
Nope.
Okay. Now, this is a public hearing that's been continued, so I don't have to open it. So, is there anyone that would like to address the board during this public hearing on this matter? So seeing none, I close the public hearing. With that, what is the wishes of the board?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to make the CEQA and zone change finding as found in the discussion of this report. 3, adopt the mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring and reporting program. 4, make a motion to adopt the ordinance to approve zone change 13-177 based on the aforementioned findings on the conditions of approval found in Exhibit B of the proposed ordinance.
Second?
Okay, have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Passes 5-0. With that, we will move on to the second public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is item number 17, another public hearing out of our planning department, and this is with regards to county service area number 56, Creekside 6. So again, we have Byron Turner here for that.
Thank you. The Creekside, this is a request from Stone Creek Properties to form a CSA for the Creekside 6 subdivision, which is an approximately 4.19 acres in size and will include 9 residential lots in a phased development pattern with a 0.75 acre open space parcel to be dedicated to the county. The project will connect to the city of Hollister sewer and will be provided water by the Sunny Slope Water District. On April 2nd of 2013, staff received correspondence from Stone Creek requesting that a county service area be formed for this project since the subdivision is too small for them to form an HOA, a homeowners association. On May 7th, the board discussed this request as part of the agenda item and concluded that the formation of a CSA for the Creekside 5 and Creekside 6 could be initiated. CSA 55 for Creekside 5 has already been formed. This would initiate Creekside 6, the subdivision for Creekside 6. Pursuant to California Government Code Section 25211.3, a signed resolution from the board is required in order to commence proceedings to establish a CSA. It is recommended that the Board of Supervisors hold a public hearing, adopt a resolution initiating proceedings for formation of CSA number 56 for Creekside 6, and direct the Public Works Department to prepare and file the required engineer's report, and direct planning to negotiate a deposit and reimbursement agreement with Stone Creek to cover formation of the startup costs for the proposed CSA. Available for any questions.
Okay, are there any questions? Supervisor Rivas.
I guess the only question I have is, I mean, many times in the past you've heard this board say, or, especially members that have been here a lot longer than myself, say that, we got to get rid of these CSAs, but we keep creating them. So, so how do we not create them? I mean, what's the alternative? I know we've talked about annexation policies and whatnot and updating our annexation policies, but it just seems like this is a bad, a bad move, in my opinion.
Reviewing our annexation policy is an important facet. The condition of approval for this subdivision was a HOA, but the applicant requested that the board consider CSA, and this board found that was a reasonable request. So this will go to LAFCO, and so the discussion will happen again at LAFCO whether this is the appropriate CSA, whether it should annex into a different CSA, or LAFCO may make a recommendation that this is not the appropriate action. But this will forward this project to that body in order to have that discussion.
Mr. Chair, but Supervisor Rio is correct. We discussed this in great detail, and we are creating a CSA. But I guess the fact that it's going to LAFCO and it will be discussed there, okay, that's assurance enough that at least a new set of eyes is going to look at it. So, okay.
Yeah, and Mr. Chair, if I could, both Supervisor Botello and I are part of the LAFCO committee or board, and yes, this is an area of concern for us as far as CSAs, but this is the approval of this today would be a way for it to move forward in that direction. Am I right,
That's
Byron?
correct,
But yeah, so I agree with you that it is something that it's not the optimum way to move forward, but it is almost the only way at this point. So, thank you, Mr. Chair.
I just wanted to point out that I spoke with Mr. Braitman about this CSA just last week, and he added a sentence in our resolution indicating that we would possibly treat this as an annexation into the existing CSA 55, that the board would also support that alternative. So when it goes to LAFCO, he may actually consider just adding this into CSA 55. And I would also like to point out that as a condition of approval, of the LAFCO approval for CSA 55, the owner signed an irrevocable consent to annex to the city of Hollister when the city of Hollister was ready to take that step. And that he might make the same type of requirement for this CSA.
May I get clarification on that?
Yes, I wish you would, because I was
Okay.
going to ask for it also.
Thank you. So what Mr. Braitman is recommending that at the LAFCO level then, or at that meeting, that it be combined with an existing CSA?
Yes, there's another CSA off of Cypress Court, which was also for just a few homes that was recently formed within the last year. And he's thinking about perhaps combining these two CSAs because they're the same type of homes, they're similar conditions, et cetera, and he thinks that it'd be appropriate possibly to just add this to the existing CSA.
Okay, and I don't see up front, just with that information, I don't see that would be an issue. Has the developer been informed that this may be a possibility? Might there be other issues if we do this? Or would this be a real clean?
I think it's going to be clean. I think the developer, it won't affect, I don't think the development at all. They're going to have the same fee for all the houses. We have the estimated special tax still at the same amount of, I believe it's $924 per parcel. The services are exactly the same for the houses, and they're all the same type of houses.
Okay, and is there a potential for savings by combining them? I'm thinking that maybe administratively there could be, I don't know.
Maybe slightly. There's such small subdivisions, it's going to save a little bit on administrative work at the Public Works Department, because instead of having to just have another CSA to have to deal with,
I agree.
there'd be a little bit larger CSA if we can combine them into one.
Okay, all right, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. So Barbara, that additional language is in our resolution now?
Yes.
Okay.
It was added as number 9. It's indicating that the board would also support annexing the area into existing CSA 55 instead of forming a new CSA if LAFCO should determine that that's most appropriate.
Okay, thank you. And I too want to voice concerns about creating, especially very small CSAs. It just doesn't seem like this is sustainable, that 9 homes, I just don't see how they can sustain the services that would be required of them. So I have reservations about this also.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Mr. Espinoza?
Thanks. About 2 or 3 weeks ago, we actually met with the city staff and county staff, along with Mr. Bob Braitman, on our sphere of influence, as well as the annexation with regards to the city. So we're actually drafting something, and as soon as we work that out between the city and the county, then we'll probably be bringing it back to your board with addressing this particular issue.
Thank you. Now, with this, I'm actually opening the public hearing. Is that correct? This is not a continuance, it's an actual opening? I'm actually opening the public hearing for the first time. Okay. With that, I will open up the public hearing. Is there anybody that would like to address the board on this item?
Marty Richmond again from Hollister. With Mr. Espinosa's comment, I'm glad, I feel good that this is not going to be a problem in this particular case, because obviously they're working on it. And I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. To get ahead of the power curve, how that happened, we must have slipped here. But it shows you how important it is to get let's get our housekeeping done. Let's get these regulations updated. Let's get our policies in line so that these things can be done at the lowest possible level at the board before it goes to LAFCO, and that the developers know exactly what they're going to do, because our history is, and this is not blaming anybody who's here in particular, but our history is when we have a deal where we hang paper all over it with little agreements of, gee, I'm going to do this in the future, and yeah, it's irrevocable and whatever, and sometimes it doesn't get done, and then 10 years goes by, and people start parading up to this dais right here saying, oh, well, you know, you were going to charge me this, but I don't think that's right. We've all seen that time and time again. If we don't clean up our act, we'll be doing the same thing, and we'll be asking Mr. Espinoza to, you know, figure out a way to clean it up, and LAFCO. We shouldn't be doing that. You got a policy. You don't want any CSAs. You especially don't want any small ones. You don't want any new ones. You want to get it all rolled in. Let's get the policy in place, and let's implement the policy so that when the next developer walks in the door, he doesn't have to go through this, and we don't have to go through this. That's my advice. Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else that would like to address the board on this issue? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing.
And I will make a motion, Mr. Chair, that we approve per staff recommendation, including the adoption of resolution number 2014-32.
I'll second that.
Under the question, we're pretty well committed at this point to creating this new CSA with the option of it being added to a larger one. We can't just go straight to adding it to a larger one?
I think that's a decision that gets made at the LAFCO level.
Okay, so that'll be decided at that point.
Yeah.
And so will the message be given to LAFCO that there was a lot of concerns about the action we're taking today?
We can ensure that that message is communicated.
Very good. Okay.
Yeah,
Supervisor
Mr.
Vitello?
Chairman, having the chair at LAFCO this year, I've had conversations. I think we've discussed it as a board as far as evaluating what consolidation of different CSAs could take place to kind of make it more efficient for, you know, everyone. But really, the ultimate goal is to redo our annexation policies and make that more workable so we don't have this situation going forward in the future. And I'm happy to hear the comments from the city, Mr. Espinoza, as far as that's coming along, because that's really what needs to happen.
You've closed the public hearing. Any other questions from the board? Okay, with that, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Passes 5-0. With that, I think I will take a 10-minute break. We'll reconvene at 10:30.
Did you get your taxes done?
Yes, I did get
saw something close. I thought I saw the restroom close. How'd you do that? You just marked it like that? Ray has them, but there still needs some more tweaking. Yeah, tell that to Jerry. Yeah. I'll be off before lunch now. 2 o'clock. No, me too. No, me too. Yeah, Robert. Yeah, I saw him go like this. I saw him go like this. You don't say any word, he said. Oh, shoot. Oh. Get blood work done.
Mics are back on.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on to our regular agenda. Mr. Espinoza?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. We're at item number 18 on our regular agenda, and we're getting close to a year when we actually started the negotiation. Actually, we're probably about a year now with the city with fire, and we actually started the contract, I believe it was June 23rd. During those discussions about a year ago from your board, you had requested looking at Fire Station 3 up in our North County area and to bring back a report to you, the feasibility. So today we're pretty much at that point of moving forward with Fire Station 3 per prior meetings, and we have Fire Chief O'Connor here to talk to you a little bit more about this particular item. Thanks.
Good morning, Board and Chair Munzer. In front of you, you have a item requesting a expenditure of up to $300,000 out of fire impact fees to do improvements to a facility at the airport and furnishings of that facility out there at the airport. If okayed by the board today, we'll move forward with getting a contract for the rent of that facility and start architectural plans with Adam from the planning department to work on some sketches to bring back to you so you actually can see what that looks like on a sketch. And then if okayed by that, we'll move forward to spending the money to get that station up and running as soon as possible, hopefully by the fall, if not sooner. So, and the ongoing cost will be in the fiscal year 14-15, will be added into that cost of the contract, about $30,000. And that's it.
Any questions from the board?
Just a comment, Mr. Chair, that I really appreciate that it's when we joined forces and consolidated and partnered with the City of Hollister, that was a request that we made, that within a year that you come back with us with a plan. And it's actually beyond that plan now because you have everything in place. So I really appreciate the effort that was made and that our comments were taken, seriously, and you move forward aggressively with this plan, and here it is. So I will certainly support it. Thank you.
I'll relay that to staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Supervisor De La Cruz?
Mr. Chair, yes. Supervisor Barrios, myself, serve on intergovernment committee, and then before that, there's a fire committee, right?
Correct.
And that's Supervisor Munzer and
Anthony.
Botello.
Yes.
I do remember the discussion we had a while back and the phases to go in. We have City of San Juan, we have City of Hollister, we have San Benito County.
Correct.
And I'm trying to find it from a logistics and fiscal responsibility. Why is it that the county's only putting up the money for the capital improvement? Is this just the county's portion, or there's a bigger budget that's going to, and this is how much money is going to cost that fire station at the airport?
Right now, the station is, that's what it's costing the county, is $300,000.
Well, it's not the county, it's an agreement that we all.
Right. This station, yeah, can help San Juan for say. San Juan paid for their station and got it up and running. City has 2 stations. We're not immediately needing a station in the north. This is more to assist the north protection of the county, so at that time. But actually, we are working on an agreement that if this station with a rent agreement, we're working out that if something happens or something like that, that some of that impact will be absorbed by the city of Hollister.
Okay. And then I think it says there's an additional annual.
Go ahead.
It's an additional annual $30,000 that's
Yes.
being, and that annual $30,000, is that the Board of Supervisors will be transferring?
It will be part of the amendment to the contract that you have right now for the $1.1 million that you pay for fire protection now.
Okay. I always believe that capital money is solving the use of capital money is the easy thing. And I think former Supervisor Reb used to say, you know, the answer is it's the money, it's what's the question. And I guess, let me ask this question.
Yes.
This $30,000, is that for staff time, or is that just for materials and other things?
It's for ongoing costs for gas, electric, toilet paper, paper towels, soaps, all the items it takes to run that station on a yearly basis.
Okay. And we're due to renew with both the city of San Juan and San Benito County soon, right?
Next year.
Next year.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great thing that we have this money that came in, that we hired volunteers and converted them to full-time. That's great.
Right.
We're all for it. We all want more protection out there in the community, definitely. But we want to make sure that the dollars that are being utilized are being, with consultation with all 3 agencies, the county, San Juan, and City of Hollister. We just don't want you to deliver a product for us and then later on say, oh, by the way, here's the bill.
No. Yeah, the personnel is already accounted for in the original contract and what we got through the Safer Grant. So there's no additional cost in personnel for this station.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Supervisor Rivas.
Yeah, so just as a point of some clarification for me, so this action here is just to move forward with the development of an agreement. Is that correct? And the agreement will come back to see how these funds will be expended?
That's correct.
That's correct.
And then another concern I have or a concern that I have is the expected annual cost of the $30,000. You know, I'd like to know why that amount, how was that amount agreed to, or, you know, some type of analysis behind that amount. I don't want to come back and then all of a sudden that $30,000 is $90,000.
No, it won't be that.
Yeah.
So you're
telling me it won't be that, but I want to see
Okay.
on paper why, and why it's going to be the $30,000.
Okay.
So, you know, you don't need to do that now, but you know, when you come back.
It's actually, like I said, the breakdown of what a fire station runs to run that station for consumable items, gas, electric, and all that. That's
Right, yeah, it would be great to have all that information.
Okay.
So thank you, Chief.
okay.
Supervisor Patel.
Yeah, that's kind of what happens at the board level here, is that we like particulars and specifics as far as how the money is spent, and I have confidence that this is not an outrageous amount for the operations of a fire station.
Right.
And you know, probably you could go look at all 4 of them and probably have similar
And
costs.
that's what we've done, right? You can't estimate the gas and electric because you're not in it yet to know what all that, but we
Right.
know what a regular station runs. So
Yeah, and but you know, we certainly would like to have a little further breakdown. It's paper towels, it's
We can do that.
pencils, and, supplies, and that would help this board.
Right. We can do that.
Thank you.
Do we really need to get that specific?
Well, it's similar to what we see with our budget, and I think that gives a little bit more comfort level to Supervisor De La Cruz and Supervisor Rivas. I think all five of us, actually. So.
I agree.
Actually, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I just got one more question. The addition of the third fire station, that's going to change the fiscal model when the contract is rewritten. I'm assuming. Yes, right?
You have a third station right now. You have Station 3 right now running out of Station 1. This is just relocating that to the airport facility.
Okay.
I mean, there's no change in equipment. We aren't adding an engine. We're not adding an engine company or anything like that. The engine's there. It's just going to get all moved to the airport when that facility's up and running.
So all we're doing is we're increasing a slight variable cost.
Right.
Okay.
Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, but Station 3 is made up of the county unit.
Yes.
And the county unit will move out to the airport once this station is completed.
Correct. Once the improvements are made, and then that facility the ongoing cost for that facility. That's it.
Okay, with that, I'll open it up to the public. Is there anybody from the public that'd like to address this issue?
Marty Richmond again from Hollister. It's just important to remember that, and I supported this, but I don't believe anything is the answer to every problem. But it's important to remember that the relocation is about response time and covering the county as a whole. And the north part of the county, and I don't live in the north part, so this is not personal with me, had just really bad response times with a lot of people. Now, we understand the south part of the county has bad response times, and that's a separate difficulty because it doesn't have a lot of people. So it's very spread out. It's a long way. Now, North County has a lot of people, and it had really bad response times because of the location of where the equipment is. So putting it out in North County gives you better coverage and shorter response times. And when you're talking about the medical response, the shorter response times are really, really important. I hope that you will schedule for sometime after the fire season and put it on your calendar for a complete review of this agreement concerning whether you think you got your money's worth. In other words, when you look at how does it work not only for cost, but how has it worked for service? Because that was a big issue. And a lot of times, I don't have to tell you this, but we talk about service and cost, and then all of a sudden the service issue kind of goes away, and all we talk about is cost. The 911 change was about service and cost. And I think we know intuitively the service wound up to be good and the cost wound up to be reasonable. This, I think, is all about service and cost. And I hope we review both service and cost, not just cost, although cost is a big factor. But I think we ought to see if we got our money's worth. Thank you for your time.
And Marty, I'd like to point out, because you mentioned South County, there is a plan for Fire Station 5, which will be in the Tres Pinas area. It's on the future plans. And also in the fire committee meetings, which I know, although they're open to the public, the full board doesn't always hear about it. We do look at service and costs, and you're absolutely right. We do need to have the chief come and make a presentation like that to the full board on the service and yes.
I recommend it after the fire season so that we have one under our belt. I didn't mean to imply that nobody cares about South County, just that it was it's a more difficult concept to get it covered because of the sparse population.
And we are also working with CAL FIRE still.
Yeah.
And they are responding when they are able to.
I didn't mean to imply they have
I
no
know,
coverage.
and I know you didn't, but I just want to, for the
Still-
record, make sure.
It's still 2 hours, whatever you do. It comes out 2 hours. Thank you.
You can't win on that one.
Anyone else from the public would like to comment on this item? Seeing none, what's the wishes of the board?
Mr. Chair, just one real light question.
Right.
You have no G&A or overhead costs, like an administrative support person out there?
At that station?
Yeah.
No.
It's all going to be
No.
direct labor?
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Just to add something to what Marty was asking, we are right now starting the grading of the fire service in this county. ISO is coming in. It's a third party. There will be grading the fire service and how it reacts, response times, the water systems. Everything will be taken into account, and then they will grade, and on those grades is how people's insurances will be set, either lower or higher depending on the response times. And as I can find right now, our response times are better than they were a year ago in most areas. So I'm hoping that one portion will definitely improve our numbers. It still depends on water, training, everything else. I think most of our numbers have gone up, so I think we should be doing better. Okay?
What's the wishes of the board?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chair, that we direct staff to move forward with the development of an agreement between the county and the city of Hollister for Firehouse Number 3, and direct staff to amend the fire services contract to include $30,000 annually for ongoing operational costs to cover Firehouse Number 3.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you, Chief. With that, we will move to item 19, consider a resolution regarding regional transportation plan prepared by the Council of Government. Supervisor Fratello.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank you for allowing me to put this on the agenda this morning. And the first thing I want to probably put in as a disclaimer is I did post a resolution that I hope that this board will support, and it's stating, let me go to it, please. On the last paragraph, it be further resolved and ordered. I know we can't order COG, but we could resolve, and I certainly will pull that wording out and ordered in the spirit of hopefully working with all the COG agencies and members. But the reason I did place this in is to raise awareness of to the board and to the public of the direction that we're going in and what is at risk. And one of the things that I really want to cover first is not the politics of the growth numbers that are being used in the AMBAG model or our general plan revision, as much as the processes that we have to work with in the region for our transportation dollars. And the COG board recently decided to go down a path of moving away from the AMBAG model and developing its own numbers through a private traffic consultant, and revised our regional transportation plan, which is part of the metropolitan transportation plan, which is, required by us by federal and state law. And by doing so, we jeopardize all of our transportation projects and monies in our county. There will probably be speakers this morning that will say, no, that's not true. Your projects are not at risk. That's just AMBAG trying to scare you, and Caltrans imposing its will on you. But why are we subjecting ourselves to that risk? And I supplied in the packet for the board some evidence, a Caltrans letter, which is should be very concerning, stating that fact, that we jeopardize that funding. And if you go further and try to understand MPOs and how it funnels, federal monies to the state and to projects that are identified in our regional transportation plan, you could see that it's very precise, and it's explained in law. And I have documentation, and that's one of the things that's what I found the hardest when I became a supervisor and started working on organizations such as AMBAG and COG, is to understanding how the flow of money exists. And that's really what this breaks down to. And I put a chart together. Where is it? I have copies in the back. And I handed it out to each of the Board of Supervisors as far as the complexity of how this all ties together. And right now, our draft regional transportation plan is not the AMBAG population economic transportation model. It's something different. Caltrans is not going to recognize it. It's not going to be amended in the AMBAG model. We go down this path. COG is to be responsible to amend the EIR, and that money comes out of our pockets. There is no money in COG, and that is not going to be budgeted in order for that transportation plan to be in conformance of CEQA. The list, the other handout I provided, and it's also in the back, is a list of projects in the county. And we're talking about $121 million worth of projects that maybe some will get funded, maybe some won't, plus the operation of the COG itself is jeopardized. I did take the time and met with COG's staff. I met with AMBAG staff to verify the seriousness of this direction that the COG board is going down, and they just verified everything that I'm stating and what's in my resolution, that hopefully we're pass and reverse course and rescind the earlier actions of the COG board and that information to the previous models that we have in place as a metropolitan planning agency and AMBAG. We have time to do this, but it needs to be done this Thursday to maintain the timelines that is available for conformance of stated by law. And, this has been now getting to the politics of it. It's a mystery to me that this is even an issue. The AMBAG model states that San Bernardino County within the next 20 years could potentially grow to 81,000 in population. And that's a big number for most of us. I think that, and the model that the special interest has, and what we're studying in our general plan revision is 94,000. And that is an old version of the AMBAG projections. The Department of Finance has San Bernardino County growing to 74,000 within the next. So one of the strengths of this planning process is that it's reviewed, the RTP, Regional Transportation Plan, every 4 years. As projects and changes occur in the county, that's when the changes could occur with the RTP, the Metropolitan Plan, and so forth. So I certainly will, answer any questions as far as to the knowledge of how some of these programs work, but we're taking a real big risk in not conforming to the AMBAG model. And all these projects are city projects, county projects, that the decision was made by a couple of city representatives that I think are being persuaded that this is not necessarily need to be followed by COG. So I'll turn it over to other further discussion from my fellow board members.
Is there any other questions?
Mr. Chair,
De La Cruz.
thank you, Mr. Chair. As I guess, as the member of COG and the other member from the county, I just, first of all, I want to start off, light and just say that in our current general plan and soon to be EIR process, a transportation model will need to allow us to meet our future needs in terms of growth, jobs, and economic development opportunities. And so we got to give that as a top consideration. We need to make sure that the right tool is provided to our staff to accommodate our future needs. If we don't provide those tools, then we are in danger of instilling a lot of traffic congestion, a lot of bad plan, due to lack of funding and planning for the traffic improvements. I also believe that every resident should have the right to minimize the commute time from one side of the city or the county to the other side, and I also believe that our members of the community have the right to go through roads, county roads that have or the least amount of potholes. And that's why I feel that the county's transportation model can meet those needs of our county than AMBAG's model. And that's why I felt that that was the best thing to do at my time.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I may ask a question of Supervisor De La Cruz. I'm not sure how long it took AMBAG to develop their model. The information that they took was from the Department of Finance, which stated that the counties are grow to a population of 72, 73,000. AMBAG, recognizing that this county has probably additional levels of growth, let's add to that, and they added 10%, which is allowable variance under their process. So that's where they arrived at the 81,000 to accommodate that additional pressure within the region that the rest of the region is not going to enjoy. And we know that the state has a decrease of population in much of the other areas. And if we grow to 94,000, it would be just unprecedented growth in the next 15 years. It would be we'll be the fastest growing county, not only in the state, but probably the nation. And our county was founded in 1874. We have a population of 55,000. So, you know, I don't know if there's any science that would support population, you know, for the next 20 years, or whether it would be prudent for this county to grow that fast with, you know, to provide schools, maintain roads, public safety, everything that goes along. We've seen that rapid growth, and it does not improve the quality of life that we enjoy as San Bernardino County residents. But getting back to my question, Supervisor De La Cruz, how did COG come up with the new numbers? Because I know what the answer is.
Well, we all know what the answer is.
Yeah, and we did not contract with that engineering firm. We did not contract with them, and they did it out of the goodness of their heart. And so I question the morals and the ethics, and really, if anything, there should be a disclosure of conflict prior to us adopting these numbers. And so it's pretty concerning that a subcommittee could go up to a private office up in San Jose, come up with numbers, and incorporate them into a plan without, you know, the proper review and qualifications of the firm doing that.
All right. Mr. Chair, could I respond, and then other supervisors? Can... Thank you, Mr. Chair. Supervisor Patello, thank you for those questions. First of all, I'd like to really thank Lisa, Tim Gerben from District 5, and other members of the committee for giving me their input on the situation. I really want to thank them. Yes, you're absolutely right. We all know where those numbers come from, but they were actually the county's 2008 numbers that we had in the past. And yes, transparency and everything at face value at the board level will come, should be addressed, and needs to come up front and be discussed if we're going to move forward with those numbers. What COG did, and actually Byron, Mr. Chair, I'd like to ask Byron a question is, Mr. Chair, is what COG did, is that going to change the general plan and the EIR process in terms of time and fiscal consideration?
As of right now, this board has directed that with regard to the general plan update, we use the 2008 population projections, and so that's how we're moving forward, is with the 2008 projections.
What numbers are those for the year 2035?
I believe that's the 94,000 number.
And what numbers did the San Bernardino County COG transportation model have?
I'm not familiar with the COG transportation model as much as I am the one that we're using, which is the
The
MBAG.
one that COG used was the 94 plus, which is consistent with what we're using right now for the general plan and the EIR process. Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Rivas?
Yeah, I have a number of, I have a bunch of notes and questions I'm going to ask. I want to hear from the public. But some quick comments I do want to make is Supervisor De La Cruz mentioned, the higher population, will allow us to meet our needs. I think that I disagree, because I think all of our interpretations of what it's going to take to meet our individual needs are much different. And certainly when you look at population projections, I'm still new at this, so this is, I think, my fourth year here, my first term, when you look at these population projections, they are, in fact, they are literally the starting point for planning for new urban development. And why I have a problem with the 94,000, I have no problem, saying, going back, because I wasn't here in 2008, so I didn't vote to adopt that. But when you talk about future urban development, it's about, it's very important for counties to have comprehensive plans and zoning ordinances that set guidelines for this development. And this county has gutted our comprehensive plans and zoning ordinances. We don't have a growth control ordinance. I was the one supervisor that voted against the growth control ordinance. So there's no mechanism, in my opinion, to control the kind of growth that we're talking about in the future, which is a concern to me, a huge concern to me. We talk about, Supervisor Dela Cruz mentioned having the right tools. We don't have any tools, in my opinion. And we talk about not having potholes and not having our congested roads. Well, didn't we lower the level of service for roads? So that would certainly have an impact moving in the future when we talk about future residents and future growth. So those are some of the initial the concerns I have. This is really complex stuff. COG, in my opinion, I think made a bad decision, but I'm not a member of COG. So, I think that, where this is confusing is, as I am a member of AMBAG, you have a lot of the, when AMBAG did receive the letter from COG asking them to delay the movement of the study and report that's going on right now. And there's a lot of frustration on AMBAG's part because they don't want to delay. They want to get this thing accomplished and done. And it's kind of like what we want to get done. When we have things that we want to get done, we want to get it done. And to be quite honest with you, when I went to the AMBAG meeting and I had to field questions, or we both had to field questions, it was quite embarrassing, because we're here fighting about, these issues. I think when we talk about general plans, it's always messy in a city and in a county. But it was embarrassing because you have a COG. You basically have some elected officials that can't agree, and you're having COG make one decision, and our Board of Supervisors may make another decision. So it's very frustrating. But I think that at a future meeting, or whether we discuss it today, we do need to look long and hard. We did hire a new consultant for our general plan update, and whether we go with the 2008 numbers or whether we go with the revised AMBAG 2012 numbers, I think is something that we need to take into consideration, especially if we want to get this general plan right. So, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. For me, it really doesn't seem that difficult to really mull this over because, number one, we are using AMBAG numbers, are we not, for our general plan? We're using the 2008 numbers that we accepted from AMBAG. What they are giving us now, and and maybe you can clarify it for me. It is not an approved plan. It is a draft plan, and I'm going to ask the AMBAG members, is it a draft plan or is it an approved plan?
It is a draft. It has not been adopted. It will not be adopted until June of 2014.
Okay, because it will not be adopted until June of 2014. I am really concerned about how we're moving forward with our general plan. We're using the 2008 AMBAG numbers. We are doing our EIR based on AMBAG 2008 numbers. To do anything different now, and this is perplexing for me, even though the solution to me is simple, is that how can they expect us in the middle of a general plan, and do they expect this of all jurisdictions, that you just turn it around, turn that big boat around, and make all the changes because they're saying we need to accept their draft plan. And I don't think that we need to go there. That's a simple part for me.
Okay, Supervisor Barrios, if I can address that. AMBAG is not, and I repeat, they are not expecting us to change our numbers for our general plan.
Okay, then who is?
No one.
All right, so then...
Our general plan can continue with the numbers that we have been using all along.
Now, that leads to another question. if we continue with the numbers that we're using right now, and these other numbers surface, the lower numbers, is that going to put us in a position to defend ourselves as a county? Because smaller numbers have come about through this new plan, and we're using higher numbers. Because if that's the case, I can't support it, knowing that this could put San Benito County in a position to defend themselves because we're using higher numbers, which, by the way, the higher numbers address even higher mitigation, which is good. And so I know other jurisdictions have faced this same problem where they have had plans that are regional, plans that are local, plans that are, you know, wherever they're coming from, and they can still move forward with their plan, but we need to make sure that San Benito County is not affected in the future by saying, okay, AMBAG, we accept your 2012 numbers. Why couldn't we just say, we will, thank you very much, we have them, we'll take them, but we're going to move forward in the direction that we have been moving forward. That's what I would recommend we do. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Patello?
Yeah, when we had that meeting with the AMBAG representative, that was one of the questions I asked. You know, we have the 94,000 number that we've have in all our studies that evolved from the 2008. Why isn't the AMBAG number the same instead of the 81? And the formula that they use is what we currently have on the books. We are operating under our old general plan. We also have some projects that have been approved and zoning's been approved, and they factor that in. Then they factor in the, you know, the region's growth rate. And this is the number that came out, and that's the number that they're using for their model. And that's the number that AMBAG and COG worked with to develop our regional transportation plan. And that's why these plans are reviewed every 4 years. Things do change. You do enter into a recession once in a while, and numbers and projections are need to be adjusted. And so, but what we're doing is we're getting out in front of our general plan revision. We're getting out in front of any sort of potential development application, and it's not recognized by the state. It's not recognized by Caltrans. It's not recognized by AMBAG, and that's the dilemma of why in this letter from Caltrans stating that we will not be consistent with a federally recognized regional travel demand model maintained by AMBAG. And 4 years from now, as these things, we complete our general plan revision, no matter what we decide to do, hopefully, and any other projects that come forward, that's when we adjust the RTP and accept those numbers. But in the meantime, by going down this path, by not accepting my resolution, we are putting on the table and delaying these other projects. That's the risk. And I'm a gambler, but I'm not that good. Thank you.
And I'd like to comment now. I was very much a part of the process AMBAG went through to develop their model, their forecast. This was done over a year ago. If we wanted these discussions, they should have happened over a year ago. What did happen was many of the communities were concerned about the forecast numbers that AMBAG came up with for their particular jurisdiction, and AMBAG worked through those details. Jolene Cosio, councilwoman of San Juan, she was concerned about the numbers that they were forecasting for San Juan. Staff of AMBAG worked with her and the staff of San Juan, and they worked out the numbers, worked out the issues. When these issues came up with the other jurisdictions, I went to our then planning director, Gary Armstrong, and I said, Gary, are you okay with the numbers that AMBAG has for us? And he said yes.
And may I ask a question? The numbers then would refer to the 2012
Correct.
model.
Correct. Correct. So I believe that was in January, our January meeting of AMBAG. AMBAG came back in February. We voted on it. The current chair of COG, without raising any concerns in the January meeting for either the city of Hollister or the county of San Benito, voted for those numbers. The representatives of the county voted for those numbers. And I'll be honest, and I don't remember, and I didn't look up the minutes, Ms. Cosio may had voted against it, but I believe she did vote for it also. So the representatives of San Benito County were listened to by AMBAG, because so many people say that AMBAG shoved these numbers down our throat. They absolutely do not. They listened to our concerns when we had them. They worked with our staff to develop them. And as I said, over a year ago, they came up with their forecast numbers for the MTP and for our RTP. I think it's awful late in the game to be trying to change these numbers. And as Supervisor Botello pointed out, we are running the risk of costing our county a lot of money, because the estimates have been that if COG has to redo the EIR, it could take a year and cost $100,000. And COG has already paid to AMBAG their portion of the existing EIR, which was $20,000. And AMBAG has no inclination to hold up the MTB, because it will then affect the funding for the whole region. And they have no inclination to do that. If San Benito County wants to go on its own, not divest itself of AMBAG, because that's a whole nother story. But if we want to go down our own route with our RTP, they say fine and dandy. It's just that we are going to have to come up with the money, because Caltrans is not going to fund it, because Caltrans I believe, gave us the $20,000 that we paid to AMBAG, and Caltrans is giving the money to AMBAG to fund the EIR. So we are running the risk of having to pay for the EIR ourselves. I don't know where that's going to come from. And the other thing, it's going to, as Supervisor Botello, it's going to put at risk the funding and at minimum the delay of our projects. And one project that I want to see get done is the bridge at Hospital Road, because that has been a health and safety issue for the last 15 years. That needs to get done, and that's on that project, along with all the other bridges and projects that we have out there.
Now, may I ask a question after your comments? You're saying that we risk certain, loss of funding, which I understand. But do we also risk, because we are not done with our general plan and we have not adopted it, who can answer? I mean, I know that some people are saying that it does not affect it, but shouldn't we be asking the right folks on whether we have a general plan that hasn't been adopted, it has the higher numbers, we are going to now adopt a model, a plan that has the lower numbers. Now, is somebody going to come back and say, you know what, your plan wasn't done yet. You should adopt the new numbers on the 84, whatever that number is, and now we have higher cost, and we extend out the time for a general plan, which we know we're all committed to completing. That's my concern.
Yeah, and that is exactly why these plans are reviewed periodically on an ongoing basis. And I read somewhere in here in this documentation that it's allowable even on a more frequent basis, but we do ours in every 4 years. And so, we all know how quick 4 years pass by on this board. I mean, it seems like you're running for re-election, and I don't think it disrupts anything that some visions that others may have for the future of San Benito County. But by going down this other road, what we do have in place right now and what we've been working hard on, Public Works and these projects that are on this list, including day-to-day operations of our transportation planning, that's what we're putting on the table. And for what and for who?
Now, may I go back to my original question? Is this going to, are we going to be put in a position that because our general plan is not adopted yet, not complete, that we are supposed to go back and change the numbers that are in this new plan that we're going to support? I need somebody to give me that answer so I can have the confidence of moving forward. And I don't know if that's going to be our consultant. I don't know if that's going to be our planning department. I don't know if that's going to be the state of California. Who has that answer? Because that is what I'm hanging my hat on.
Okay, and Supervisor Barris, I want to get clarification. Are you asking, are we going to get sued? Or are you,
No.
are you asking, is the state going to come down on us for having two different sets of numbers?
No, well, I guess I'm asking two sets of questions. I do worry about somebody coming back and saying, hey, these numbers were out there, you didn't use them, you used the higher numbers on your general plan, you did it all wrong. But I think more importantly, we need to find out if these numbers are out there, both numbers are out there, do we have the obligation to use those numbers in the midst of our general plan, incorporate them, do the whole EIR process again? And I need to get the answer from the person that really knows,
Okay.
and I don't know who that is.
Well, I don't have that answer for you, but we could definitely look that up for you. I could probably work with Plan. I don't know if you have any input. I mean, we could probably talk to the consultant as well to give you that definite answer, but I don't have it right now.
I guess my point is this is all good and well, but I don't want to take the risk on doing something that is going to affect what we're doing right now with our general plan.
I'm not sure how it will affect the general plan. I don't have that answer for you, but I do know that changing the numbers that we are moving forward with the general plan will affect the timeline and the budget of the general plan.
Byron, do we have to change them? Do we have to change those numbers because we adopt this new model?
Do not believe we need to change the numbers that we are using in the general plan.
And I know it's hearsay in a
It
court of
is.
law,
It
but that
is.
is also what the executive director of AMBAG said, is that we can go forward with our general plan numbers, even though the RTP and the MTP is coming in with lower numbers. We can still go forward with the general plan. They don't have to be the same, because these plans take time to formulate them, and then you have another plan that come along, and then you have another plan. So the numbers do not have to jive. But I understand that's hearsay. She's not here to say it, but that is what she indicated to me several times.
And that's what I tried to express a little bit earlier, is that how they developed the model was with the information that they have right now, our current general plan. Now, we get some, a different path, then it's going to reflect with the new RTP, those numbers at a future date. Our general plan is not driven by the RTP, it's the other way around.
Well, I guess with that being said, that it's the other way around, then it's not meshing. Then something, then we're
What's
not.
not meshing is that we haven't got done with our general plan, and we've been fiddling with it for 7 or 8 years. And old models don't reflect what's happening today.
Exactly, and I think that's my concern, is that somebody can come back, and I know that we're always subject to litigation, doesn't matter what we do. But are we opening up ourselves to further litigation because we are adopting a general plan with numbers that are larger than this other plan that COG is adopting?
Hang on. And I would say, because the census came in with even lower number, that if we maintain the higher number, we are putting ourselves at risk, even more so. Anyway.
So
Because-
that
because
then my
since-
concern is correct, that if we maintain the higher numbers
Yeah,
that
we
are
almost,
in our
we
general
almost,
plan.
we almost need to consider reviving the general plan down to the lower numbers, but that's a whole nother issue.
That's what I'm concerned about.
Supervisor De La Cruz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I do appreciate all these comments. Thank you. Byron, stay up there. Stay up there. Did you get any feedback or response from our consultant that by COG going in the county's transportation model, it could have an effect on our general plan EIR process?
I did not get, what I did get from our consultant was that we do not want to change the numbers that we're using in our general plan.
Which is?
Which is the 94,000. To change the numbers in the general plan to change the direction that we're going in the general plan. I'm talking about the general plan, not the RTP. That would cause the work to stop and basically to have to re-look at the scope of, and the budget and the timing of the general plan. So it would halt the work we were doing on the general plan. We'd all have to go back and take a look at what it means.
So if we were to, if COG, if the board sends somebody to COG to say, it's just, change of course, the COG's going to go in the AMBAG's number, because that has the potential for less traffic impact fees monies to come in?
That's a question I'd want to consult with Public Works and COG before I answer.
Because, I figure it does because there's less units available to collect that traffic impact fees. Then it could have an effect on, and it's funny because I was doing research last night and the name Brad Pipe came up about 25, and it could have an effect on what do we do in 25 down the road.
Yes.
And so, and Supervisor Batalo and Supervisor Munzer, they're correct. I think they're correct in what they're saying, that because, the federal and the state says, and in fact I have a copy of what they gave me, that you have to have an agreed, approved, based on reliable data for these projects to be funded. But at the same time, it allows for some flexibility in which we can all work together to reach a point in which we're consistent. Right now, it seems like we're not even consistent. AMBAG model is not consistent with our general plan EIR process. It's not consistent now with the COG's transportation model. So I know there's room for everyone to sit on the table and hash these things out and work together. No one should really be jeopardizing funds that we the community can need. You have to agree with me, Supervisor Vitale. Sometimes Caltrans, we can't rely on Caltrans. You got to admit that, and there's been times, and so, and those are some of the reasons why I believe in this concept. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Rivas?
I have an additional question, but I'd like to hear
Hear from the public?
Yeah, hear
Okay.
from the public first.
So we'll open it up to the public. Anyone from the public that'd like to comment on this item?
Yes, Marty Richmond?
Lambs to the slaughter. Marty Richmond. Mr. Chairman, I have to tell you, I'm insulted by this discussion because I'm insulted that somebody would lie right to my face. Supervisor Botello says this is not about politics. He is not telling the truth. This is all about politics. Everybody really knows it. Nobody wants to say it. This is an argument between people who don't want to develop and people who do want to develop. And the public should know it. We should at least get honest here. Okay? The people who don't want to develop want the 83,000 number, and the people who do want to develop want the 94,000 number. And that's all this is all about. No one knows what our population is going to be at 2035. This is a planning-only number. That's all it is. And supervisors, some supervisors, I won't name who, would have more trust if they didn't fight every attempt and use every argument to get their point, whatever that point is. Okay? So, there's a reason this argument's going on, and it is all politics. It isn't going to make a darn bit of difference anywhere else. I sat through that COG meeting, and I'll tell you what happened. Our gentleman who's been insulted here, that we hired, who's hired by the state often, that we just, essentially had a supervisor call him everything but a crook, okay, which there's no evidence of. I don't know the gentleman, but he appears to be perfectly reliable. The state wouldn't use him. Caltrans wouldn't use him if he was. He's not a crook. Maybe he's for sale and somebody knows it, but I don't know it. He got up and he put his numbers out, and Caltrans got up and AMBAG got up, and I can tell you what they did not say, because I listened very carefully. They did not say to him, "You are wrong. Your numbers are wrong." I waited for that. I had my pencil out so we could argue. What they said to him is, "Those are not the official numbers." And the guy said, "But you made a mistake. You counted it wrong." And they said, "Yeah, maybe, but they're not the official numbers. You have to use the official numbers." Now, if we got to the point in America where we're so stupid that we'd use the wrong numbers, even though we know they're wrong, because they aren't the official numbers, this is no way to do business. That's all I got to say. If you guys want to argue about development, argue about development. Don't use this as a proxy, because that's all that's happening here. Nobody in their right mind would have a general plan that says there's 93,000 people and have a transportation plan that says there's 83,000 people, because the next argument is going to be, well, we can't develop because the transportation plan won't support it. We couldn't put 93,000 people in here if we wanted to, because the transportation plan says it's only 83,000 people. Or the other way around. We can't have a transportation plan because there's going to be 93,000 people. Come on, at least tell the truth to the public. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Is there any other speaker cards? Would anybody else like to address the board on this item?
Good morning. I'm Pat Lowe. Just considering what Marty said, on face value, it sounds logical, and I have to agree with what he's saying. But you're also saying 30,000 people in the next 15 years, where we are at 50,000 right now, and it's taken us over 100 years to get there. So 30,000 is a lot of people. Just keep that in mind, okay? And today, I think you have a very simple discussion and a very simple decision before you to make. Is the Board of Supervisors or outside development interest running San Benito County? Make no mistake, this item and item 26 are tied together. The only question is, will a member of the Board of Supervisors step up and become a leader, or are we going to continue down the path of big money and greed? You took an oath of office to represent the people of San Benito County. If you read the letter from Caltrans, there is no question about what is best for the people of San Benito County. So I ask you again, will the board take the position that the people elected you to take, or will you listen to outside development?
Wait, one last time, is there anybody from the public that would like to address the board on this item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. Supervisor Rivas?
I do appreciate the comments. And as I said before, I'm not playing politics with it. I was the one supervisor that voted against the growth control ordinance. My truth is, I think 94,000 is too many people. I mean, that's it. I'm not playing politics with it at all. I just think that that number's too high. I think that 81,000, when you look at the historical trends in San Benito County and the way that we've grown, it's more consistent. I think that there was a bump in the 90s where we had a significant amount of growth that has negatively impacted our roads and our infrastructure. So I certainly want to get the numbers right. That's all I'm concerned about. I'm not trying to play politics with it. I want to grow, but I want to grow responsibly. And I just think that we don't have the structure and the zoning and the policies in place and really the leadership in place to make sure, to my satisfaction, that we get innovative some development, that we are going to make the appropriate and correct the decisions related to growth in the future. So that's that's where I'm coming from. And so I know that the problems that we have in Sacramento, the problems that we have in Washington, is that we don't have elected officials that compromise very well. It's they stay on the left, they stay on the right, and there's very few in between. So I'm not sure if a compromise to this issue would be, because one of the speakers made a great point and said that you can't have inconsistent numbers, and I agree. And I think that the inconsistency is going to be a huge problem, because we either have to, I agree with AMBAG's numbers, but at the same time we have a general plan that adopted 2008 numbers. There's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, we're going to have to either revise those numbers, which could, it'll certainly have a delay in the general plan. It'll certainly be expensive. Is there any type of way that we can have COG adopt some type of range that says, hey, we'll accept the draft, the AMBAG draft numbers, and then have a scale of some sort? I don't know if that is a willing compromise. That way that we have that flexibility for our general plan as a county, and COG has the flexibility. That is something that I would certainly be open to. And other than that, I think the rest of the questions I have are, they've been either addressed or I don't even want to get there. So, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair.
Supervisor De La Cruz.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the members of the public for their speech. I have, in the past, and I'll still say it today, and I know my fellow supervisors have heard me say that I'm not confident with AMBAG. You guys heard that. I've said it. I voted against AMBAG on many things. Even Lisa will agree that I have voted against AMBAG and expressed my not approval of AMBAG. But I also believe that because there are inconsistent numbers here today that we'll need local funding to address that inconsistency, I also believe that we've got to have some trust in everyone, including AMBAG, and reach some type of compromise and reach some type of deal in which it's a win-win for the community. You're correct. We're all correct. We've got to make sure we plan for our future growth by the year 2030, the smart and the good way to ensure that economic and opportunities are created in this community. And if we don't have money for traffic projects, then where do we go? Because roads is the way how we build smart communities. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Supervisor Bertellum.
Yeah, I agree with both supervisors, what they just said. I think we do have a problem with our general plan process using an older model. And we probably need to address that as a board and have a true-to-heart discussion about that. But the item I have before this board today is more focused on our regional transportation plan and the relation it has with the AMBAG and federal and state transportation monies. And the public speaker, he could accuse me of lying as politics or not politics. I really don't care. But it's a process of the relation that we have to our projects and what needs to be done in this county. No matter how long it takes for our general plan to be adopted or not, this has to do with the regional transportation plan and utilizing the AMBAG model, which is required. It's not asked. It's not optional. It's required that we use the AMBAG metropolitan organization model. And that's where we got to go back to. And like I said earlier, is that we could amend, future regional transportation plans to reflect the general plan revision projects as they come forward. And so I think that's really what this is all about today. Thank you.
Supervisor Barris?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will support Supervisor Rivas' suggestion because I think the only way that San Benito can move forward would be for COG to get back to the table and include something in there that recognizes that San Benito County's general plan has the higher numbers. Somehow incorporate their language that says we accept the AMBAG, model, but make reference to our general plan, make it a little broader, and I will support that. So I think at this point that we don't, my recommendation would be that we don't adopt this resolution, but ask formally for COG to get back and do something different than what they have presented.
The problem with that, Supervisor Barrios, is the timeline. AMBAG is going down the road. If we do not get hooked back up to them by Thursday, unfortunately, and that's why I said earlier, all this discussion is good discussion. It should have happened a year ago. If we do not get tied back into AMBAG by Thursday, that train will be gone, and COG will be paying for the revived EIR.
Unfortunately, I think the majority of this board was not aware of this timeline, and here we are faced with it this week with little time to plan. So,
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, I'm
I
sorry.
have a question for Lisa. Sorry to put you on the spot, Lisa. So in reference to what Chairman said, is it possible to have COG adopt some type of resolution that acknowledges the AMBAG, the draft numbers, as far as population numbers, and have a range within that?
What I will say, Supervisor Rivas, is, first of all, my name is Lisa Reinheimer, Executive Director of San Benito Council of Governments. What I will say that is if the COG board wants to support that, that's up to the COG board. We can propose it, certainly, but it would be up to the COG board.
Right. So, to follow up on that, as the chairman just said, in order to get tied back into AMBAG, can you specifically tell this board what AMBAG wants? Do they want us just to specifically adopt and I guess give COG the blessing of what they're doing?
I don't think it would be appropriate for me to speak on behalf of AMBAG. What I will say with regard to the RTP and the coordination that San Benito COG and AMBAG have been going down is sort of walking the same timeline, if you will, of getting an adopted regional transportation plan and metropolitan transportation plan / sustainable community strategy done in a June timeframe.
June time. Okay.
We have time.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Supervisor De La Cruz?
Can I respond to that? Because I remember, and I think Lisa knows where I'm going. I remember back in, was it February or January, AMBAG told us that, no, you needed to approve it on that day, otherwise it wouldn't go forward, or you will miss the train. And we are here today, and they have actually said, we'll wait till June.
No.
I mean,
June has always been the target adopted date.
Okay.
It had to start back in January to make that June target date of adoption.
Yeah, okay, because I specifically heard from some members of AMBAG says there's no extension. But, okay, if you say it's June, okay.
That is correct.
Okay.
Okay, what's the pleasure of the board?
Well, I'm going to make a motion to accept my resolution. What the heck? Yeah, with the deletion of and order off of that last following the resolve, and to ask the chair to sign it, and also request part of my motion to have the alternate representative to COG attend Thursday's meeting.
Okay, there's a motion?
Under the question? Or it has to be seconded, right?
Yeah. Did you second it or no?
I'll second it.
Okay.
I'd like to, under the question. I think the only way I can support this is if we include somewhere in the ordinance this range that I proposed. I think it's important, that way it ties both documents. I think that if we have one document with 94,000, because we still haven't, if we do revise that, like we said, I mean, that's a whole other headache. But I really would feel more comfortable moving forward if in this ordinance, this resolution, we have some type of acknowledgement of, hey, some type of a population, a projection range of, we acknowledge the draft or we accept the draft numbers, obviously, but somewhere in there, there's got to be mentioned about the fact that our general plan update has the 2008 AMBAG numbers. It's been working off of. I mean, does that make sense?
I'm trying to follow. As long as how would that work with the MPA Metropolitan Plan, MPO, or
MTP?
And I guess my concern is I'm fine with that as long as AMBAG is okay with it, and they're going to be able. We're going to be able to get it.
We're acknowledging those numbers. We're saying, okay, MTP, we're acknowledging, but at the same time, we've got to give ourselves the flexibility to say, hey, we are working off, or our general plan update is working off of 2008 numbers that has the population at 94,731.
Okay.
But one thing that doesn't do, though, it doesn't address the situation at COG. You still have COG using different numbers than will be on our general plan.
No.
Yeah, because isn't COG adopting a plan that is the same as a general plan?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Aren't they the same?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, well, yes. However, the way I understand how Supervisor Bertel is bringing this motion is that they will have the opportunity to change that on Thursday and direct staff to go with the MBAC transportation model of the 81 or 84,000.
But it has to happen with wording that protects the general plan, that addresses what we're doing and moving forward as a county with our general plan, higher numbers. That is my concern. And you're saying we don't have time. There's a COG meeting on Thursday?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Could we have a special meeting after the COG meeting to see if they're going to address the concern that I have or you have? Can it happen?
What we got to do is change this letter. That's the ultimate bottom line. And if any way we could make this work is fine with me. Supervisor Rivas's idea, I'm not opposed to that. But what concerns me is that the county, the California Department of Transportation, Caltrans, cannot support this decision because the county model is not consistent with federally recognized regional travel demand model maintained by the Association of Monterey Bay Area Governments. It will not be acceptable for state and federal transportation planning purposes. If we could change that, I'm all for it. I don't care what number it is.
So then my point would be, if I could, Mr. Chair, is that it doesn't matter what we do here. What matters is what happens at COG.
Correct.
That is what's going to change that.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter what we do. The only thing that I think we need to do is to encourage COG, because we certainly can't order them, as you said, encourage them to go back and do something that can reflect what we're doing in our general plan, so that it does compromise.
Like possibly having okay, right this moment we're acknowledging, kind of like a start date, right? We acknowledge the draft AMBAG numbers, but then there certainly has to be an end which reflects the 2008 AMBAG numbers in our general plan.
Something.
a start and an end. Does that make sense?
Okay.
But the resolution as it is not going to,
But you were add some, you're suggesting adding some, another whereas reflecting the population number?
Yes. Well, we can acknowledge the fact that we here today, COG will acknowledge the draft 81,000, and then possibly, and depending on what the board does related to if we do nothing and we stay with that 94,000, I feel it's necessary to acknowledge that, as far as that way there's some type of consistency.
exactly.
There's a start date and then there's an end. Is that, that's the best I can do.
Now, Supervisor Rivas, if I could ask, are you able to carry that through AMBAG, Supervisor Munzer, as our two representatives, to make that acceptable to the AMBAG board? Do you think that would work?
Has to go through COG.
Well,
if COG drafts
COG
it that
does
way,
it.
then we're going to have to explain it to the AMBAG.
Right.
Oh, got it.
yeah.
And I'm thinking out loud here, and I think it would take withdrawing the motion. Would this board be interested in my forming a ad hoc committee that'll last 2 or 3 days that would get with AMBAG and see if they are agreeable to the language that we're trying to come up with? And if they're not, then we stay with Supervisor Patello's resolution as it's written. If they are, then we'll amend it to the way Supervisor Rivas wants it. So we would at least be able to contact AMBAG and see if they are okay with it.
And in the interim, Mr. Chair, if I could, what is going to happen at COG? I mean, are we directing
we're gonna
COG
have-
as a
The
board?
ad hoc committee would have to get this done. We would have to we would almost have to have 2 resolutions. Almost have to approve 2 resolutions. And then the ad hoc committee, before the COG meets, would contact AMBAG and run this past them.
I'd like to get the opinion of council on this. I don't know if we're going in the right path.
Okay, and again, I'm thinking out loud, if you're not comfortable with it, then we'll just go back to and figure out the original motion.
So I guess one point I would make, so everybody's clear, this board has no power to direct COG to do anything. That's right. Okay? All this board has power over is the 2 members of this board that are appointed to COG. So the other point I would mention after, sitting here listening to this, I don't think in this motion you can solve the problem with the general plan and solve the problem with COG at the same time. Although they are related, they are actually 2 separate problems. In its simplest form, and this may be unfair, and hearkening back to what Marty said, it may be evidence of the increasing insanity in this world, but in its simplest form, if COG chooses not to go with the AMBAG model, it threatens our funding from the feds and the states. If the general plan uses a 2008 population number, someone can attack it. If the board wants to use the 2012 number, the downside there in the general plan is it's going to cost more money and take more time. I don't know how much time, but I would remind the board a couple things. First of all, the general plan is a snapshot in time. It's meant to be a flexible document also. It's not meant to be static. So if you use the 2012 numbers in the general plan and it takes 2 years for that to recirculate the EIR, there's going to be a 2016 number that's going to come out from AMBAG that's going to make the general plan obsolete. So the general plan, to a certain extent, always drags behind reality. It's meant to be a planning document. There is some visionary looking forwards, but the numbers that it uses to rely on are static numbers. it takes a long process. So I don't know that you can solve the problem today. You have to choose between which is the lesser of the evil. One, to risk the federal funding at COG and leave open the possibility that the general plan is either challengeable or will cost a lot of money to change. Or two, go with a number that you think matches the general plan and make that consistent, which is good, but then put at risk the funding for the traffic project.
This is tough. Thank you. I appreciate the clarification. So, Mr. Chair, could this board then, knowing that, I mean, we really have those three options, three ways to go. This is not going to solve, we still need to know what COG is going to do and see if they even reconsider doing anything different. But I think in sending this resolution, it's going to make it more of a confrontational type of approach rather than getting our ad hoc committee to talk to AMBAG, to talk to the COG board members, which includes the City of San Juan City, see if there can be a redirection of how, of recognizing the general plan numbers so that we don't have two numbers floating out there that I think can be detrimental to this county. So that would be my recommendation, is I think the ad hoc committee would be a good way to go. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So what you're, I'm sorry.
Okay, I was just going to, for clarification, so we don't forget, we do have a motion
In a second.
and a second.
So, yeah, and that is to resolve to rescind the previous numbers of the AMBAG transportation model, the county, well, the COG model, or if you want to refer to that. My motion is to rescind those numbers and re-implement the AMBAG travel demand model. That's really the point, is to urge that to happen on Thursday, not to risk our transportation dollars.
But it doesn't solve our general plan.
No, not solving general plan today. We're just solving regional transportation model plan. General plan, we got to work on that one.
But my point is that now you're going to have two numbers, and it needs to go beyond having two numbers. And I think that's why I have to support Supervisor Rivas's comment that there's got to be a way to compromise to make sure that both numbers are recognized in some fashion.
Mr. Chair, I mean, I could be wrong on this, but even if COG would have gone with AMBAG's transportation model, there still would have been an inconsistency issue of the general plan ERR numbers and AMBAG numbers, right?
From what I've been told, no.
Okay.
Okay, are we ready for a vote? On the motion and the second?
So just so I'm clear, Mr. Chair, the motion that's on the floor right now that the board's preparing to vote on is to adopt the resolution prepared by Supervisor Botello, with the only changes being in the second half of the resolution, the words "and ordered" in both of the last two paragraphs will be taken out.
That's correct, in that the alternate for COG be the representative to attend the meeting.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Supervisor Rivas?
Council, can that be done?
Are you talking about the second part of the?
The regular member decides to show up. I mean, that person's entitled to show up.
It says somewhere in here that you could amend.
We're gonna cuff them outside, or?
Yeah, I don't. Who's the alternate to begin with?
I believe Supervisor Munzer.
Supervisor Munzer, yeah. So I don't know that the board can or can't instruct the alternate to show up. It would seem to me that the regular member should be allowed to attend. But what I would rephrase Supervisor Botello's motion perhaps to say that the appointed board members to COG vote in accordance with the resolution adopted by the majority of the board. Supervisor Botello, did you hear what I was saying by any chance?
I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention.
So the last half of your motion where you said that the alternate be
right.
I'm not sure what the legality is on that is. I'm not sure whether that's legal or not. But what I am more sure about is, and perhaps you would consider amending your motion along these lines, is that the appointed board members to COG be instructed by the majority of the board to vote in accordance with the resolution adopted by the majority of the board. Would that be acceptable to you?
Yes, that makes sense.
Is it, Mr. Chair, I guess, the right to speak to it is my defense. Let me consult with my attorney first. No. Is that legal? Can a resolution direct a member of a committee to vote that way? Because if you say yes, and the whole public's here, I am bound to what you say.
Right. So if we were to pull out the board rules that govern the procedures that govern the board, in the board rules there is a provision that regarding committees that states that the chair, together with the majority of the board, has the right to appoint to a committee. And so the power to appointment is also then the power to remove. So that kind of tells me that in the COG situation, where the members of the board that are appointed to sit on COG are there to do the work of the majority of the board. That's would be the logical assumption of that. So I believe the majority of the board could instruct the appointed COG board members to follow the will of the majority. And if a board member were to say, I can't do that for some reason, it's against my conscience or whatever, then the board, again, composed of the majority, would have the right to remove that member from COG and appoint another one in his or her place.
Yeah, and I certainly don't mean any disrespect to Supervisor De La Cruz. I kind of have a very clear understanding of your position, and
Yes.
try and make it.
I will, Mr. Chair, I'm going to be consistent to my vote, so I would recommend that you actually make it official and remove me from this this Thursday's meeting, Mr. Chair.
So first of all, we have a motion that hasn't been acted on yet to see whether the resolution as proposed by Supervisor Botello together with his recommendation is even going to pass. So before we get to removal, I would suggest we vote on that.
Shoot, and now you could even vote for it.
No, but it doesn't change COG's vote.
Okay, now, again, for clarification, the motion, the resolution only instructs the COG members of this board to support the AMBAG numbers. We do not have a range as part of the motion. Are we okay with that, or do we want to add the range in?
Yeah, and maybe as support this to safeguard the federal funding for our transportation projects, but also we need to work to resolve the discrepancies regardless what happens here. So that's my feeling about it as well.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. I'm going to call for the vote.
Hold on, 1 second.
Okay.
So there's no range. We're not going to acknowledge the fact that there's going to be an inconsistency. I know that we can't, hit everything, hit all these issues on one resolution. That's clear now. But I think the only way I can accept this motion is if we agendize for a future meeting a greater discussion beyond COG about what we're going to do related to our general plan, related to the 2008 versus 2012 numbers. Because, and I need to get greater clarification, I think, about this inconsistency. Because certainly, I mean, this is a lose, 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 lose all situation. Because we're saying, I don't think that we really even know. I mean, we're getting threatened by left and right from both sides, saying you're going to lose your transportation funding. Both sides are saying, you know, hey, your transportation model is inconsistent. And then you have the other people saying, you know, your transportation model is inconsistent. I don't know anything about transportation models. And so when I get these letters from people, I'm like, it's kind of ridiculous. And so, I think that we need to have a deeper discussion about moving forward and really the relative impacts to our general plan and having these two inconsistent numbers by a regional agency that we are kind of almost forced to adopt. And then you have these our local, numbers that when we started the general plan update, that's the information we had. And we're kind of stuck in, if we would have adopted a general plan update last year, we wouldn't have been stuck in this.
Yeah, we wouldn't be having this. We wouldn't have this discussion.
Issue. So the only way I'm going to support this motion is if we can agendize to a date certain this greater discussion, this larger discussion.
I'm going to turn, but Ms. Espinosa, I believe we are having a general plan update on our May 6th
That's
agenda.
the
So this can be
tentatively
part
scheduled
of that
item, yes.
report.
So I'll make sure the consultant is aware of this and be able to bring this back to your board.
So that should be part of my motion as well, is what,
Yes.
that we agendize, a discussion and decision as far as what population number we should be using for our general plan revision.
And if we can invite AMBAG representatives to come, because I know that there was a question by Supervisor Barrios about the potential legality of having this gap. If we can let's invite our AMBAG representatives, and let's invite, who else? I drew a blank. Obviously, our consultant will be here, so that'll be.
I'm sure, yeah, okay.
Right, and in this meeting, we have to have that discussion about costs, impact to costs. If we just need to throw it all out there.
Okay.
It's part of my motion as well.
You've amended your motion. Does the second accept the amendment? Okay. One last time. Are we ready for the vote?
Yep.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
No.
Okay, passes 3-2. Now, and I don't want to leave here until everything is crystal clear,
Oh, yeah.
as much as it can be.
Is there a crystal clear fairy here?
Yeah. Okay, are the two representatives to COG comfortable with the fact that they have been directed to vote accordingly on Thursday?
No, Mr. Chair.
I know I am.
Then can I ask if the representative that is not comfortable, can he excuse himself now and allow the alternate to attend the meeting?
Well, certainly Supervisor De La Cruz can voluntarily step down and ask that another one be appointed in his place, but that would be voluntary on his part.
I would prefer that the board does it by motion. And can I participate in that motion, or do I have to recuse myself from that discussion?
In order to replace Supervisor De La Cruz, the chair, together with a majority of the board, has to vote to replace him.
So I can vote on that. Yeah.
That would be taking him off COG.
Yes, and appointing someone else in his place.
That's not just for one meeting. That'd
You
be
can do it temporary, you can do it long-term, you can do whatever you want, the chairman.
Well, if Supervisor De La Cruz is removed from the COG committee, and whoever's appointed in his place, that would be the new COG committee until another day at another meeting and another action was taking place.
Mr. Chair, I need to know, why is this happening? Why is this suggested that
Because part of the motion was that the COG representatives would vote accordingly to the board.
So that is the only reason, because now this COG representative is saying no? I will not follow that? Okay, I understand it now. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
What's the wishes of the board?
I would support for this meeting. Pardon me?
Do
I thought-
I guess, actually, I had to make I guess I had to make the committee, I would have to make the committee appointment, correct? And then I get the support of the board? Or do I need a motion from the board to make the change?
Well, you'll need, in order to make the change to remove or replace Supervisor Dela Cruz, you'll need a majority vote. So I think the first motion should be, does the majority support Supervisor Dela Cruz being removed from the COG subcommittee?
Okay.
I have a
Supervisor
question.
Rivas?
But doesn't the chair initially make the appointments?
He does.
The chair initially makes one, but the board rules and procedures make it clear that it's the appointment of the chair together with the majority. I can read the rule if you want me to.
Okay, no, that's fine. That's why you make the big bucks.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, then we're back to what's the wishes of the board?
I'll make that motion to remove Supervisor De La Cruz from the COG board, and
I think that's all we're doing.
pardon me?
That's all we're doing at this point.
Yeah.
Okay. Correct, all we're doing is making the motion to remove, okay? Is there a second? I will second it. Is there any further discussion?
Just a comment, Mr. Chair, that I can't support it simply because I didn't support the resolution. I think we're moving forward, even though in concept I don't want to lose that funding. I still feel that we should have done further work at some point. So for that reason, I can't support it.
Good.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
No?
Passes 3-2.
Or aye?
Okay, now you need a motion appointing the new COG member.
Now, do I make that appointment, and then the motion is to authorize that appointment?
So the rule says the chair, with majority consent of the board, shall appoint a committee at such times as deemed necessary for the proper conduct of the business. So I read that to say you as the chair can make the nomination, but at the end of the day, it's, in this case, a majority needs to approve.
Can you appoint yourself, Mr. Chair?
Yes, there's nothing that prevents it.
The chair does all the time, too.
Yep. So you can appoint yourself, okay.
So I would make the motion, or I would make the appointment of myself as the COG member with Supervisor Dela Cruz as the alternate.
Okay.
You can do that. You beat me that
Just
one.
got to keep you off the street so you don't get hit by a bus. I'll second the motion.
Okay?
That was a shocker. I have to admit that.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Consistently, aye.
Okay, passes 3-2. With that, we will break for lunch, and we will reconvene at 1:30.
That was a smart one, Terry. I got to give you that one.